So let's sit nice and tall, huh?
On Wednesday, wasn't it? Like in the 90s, real humid.
Yeah, it was. It was. Welcome to early winter.
Welcome to PA.
Yeah. So let's sit nice and tall and close the eyes. And just take a moment to arrive. And feel that your physical body is arriving. Feel that it is settling into the seat that you are sitting. And feel that every part of the physical body is surrendering into presence in this moment. That the feet are connected to the earth. And the energy of the earth is supporting that connection, welcoming that connection, and enhancing that connection. And that the physical body is so joyful to be sitting still in a moment of witnessing, in a moment of presence. The physical body embracing the earth energy below, the air energy around, the water, the fire, and the space energy also. And notice that because you are focusing on drawing your physical body into this present moment, having a very pure experience of sitting, that the mind follows. The mind goes there too. It may be trying to go someplace else, but keep drawing it back to presence. Keep bringing it back to paying attention on purpose to what your body is feeling as you arrive closer and closer to this moment. And bring the awareness to the heart also. Allow yourself to recognize that the more present you are in this moment, the more relief the heart feels. The softer, the happier, the more joyful, the calmer, the more honoring, the more accepting the heart feels. Fear falls away. And a certain kind of confidence, knowing, replaces the fear. And with the body and the mind and the heart, what we could call spirit, connected in this moment or very close to it, together we'll lift our voices in one Om. Take a nice breath in. Om. Bowing the head to the heart, acknowledging all that is. And draw the face to center. Flutter the eyes open. Welcome. So good to see each of you this morning. So today's talk is on now. Like, what's so big about now? What is so amazing about now? I went to go see the movie Judy. Anybody see that yet? It's amazing. I highly recommend it. It's the Judy Garland story. It's not her whole life. It's kind of visuals past and, early in life and later in life, but focused later in life and kind of her last couple of years. And she says this one thing in the movie, which was so powerful. She said, and I'm paraphrasing a little, she said, look, you can have all the goals you want. You can have all the goals you want. But really all goals is the process of walking and walking and walking and walking. Walking from one goal to the next, one place to the next. So when it comes down to it, you just better be happy with the walking. And the walking is symbolic of the presence. The walking is symbolic of now. the goal doesn't really have much meaning to us because it's not something that has actually materialized. It's not something that is guaranteed. It's not something that we can put all of our good work into, and we're definitely going to receive that. The goal is very unstable. The goal is not the point. The walk is the point. And the walk is the present moment. The walk is, where is your heart? Where is your awareness of the physical? Where is your awareness of the spiritual? Yes, the goal is also important. There's definitely a difference between having a goal of realizing yourself as peaceful in the world versus having a goal of getting what you want no matter what you have to do to get it. There's, of course, a difference there. But neither one has any meaning without the way you're walking right now. I'm also reading this wonderful book called The Quantum Revelation. It's a bit heavy reading. Quite a bit of quantum physics in here. But there are a few things that just jump out. And, we can hear the word quantum physics and we can think, oh, wow, way beyond me. They talk about like Einstein in here, and so many others. And Wheeler as being kind of the modern father of the quantum theory. And to sit down with one of his papers would be, mind-boggling. But to break it down to a very practical application for you and I as non-physicists, here's just a few thoughts. Wheeler writes in his personal journal that it may be more important to look for the right questions rather than the right answers. The right question puts you into this moment. The right answer is a goal. And the answer is going to always, always, always depend upon the question that you're asking. Just like the quality of your life is going to always, always, always depend upon how present you are to that life in this moment. Powerful. Quantum reality. And then he goes on to say, what is the universe revealing to us? Wheeler comments, no question? Then you don't get an answer. We spend so much of our life wondering, what is the purpose? What is my meaning? Why do these things happen to me? And we ask this one question over and over and over again. Why can't my life be better? Why can't my life be better? Why can't I be happier? But we're not asking the pertinent questions that actually bring us more deeply into this moment and that also support the realization of the life we want. Now, in the New Age, they say, there's this power of manifestation that if you think about being rich, you'll become rich. No. Sorry, anybody who practices New Age. Not entirely true. It's not. Just because you think it doesn't make it so. You also have to act. You have to be an activist in your own life. And when you think about that, it brings you back to this moment. What walk are you walking? What talk are you talking? What questions are you asking? I find myself caught up in, a cycle of not having, of feeling like I lack. Then what is it that you're doing or not doing that is contributing to that sense of lacking? This is not saying that people are poor because they think they're poor. This is saying that, a really interesting side note, there's a beautiful mantra in Sanskrit. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnasya Purnamidachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavasishyate. Purna. Now, some linguists would probably say not a relation between Purna and poor, but I would suggest maybe there is. That the sound vibration of the word poor actually means full. And it's all in how we look at it. Purna in Sanskrit means full. whole, complete. The word poor in English means to be impoverished, to be without. And yet, scientific research tells us over and over again, they find that individuals who are what we would call poor or closer to poor are actually happier and more involved in their present moment life than people who are wealthy. Isn't that amazing? So what's the difference between the two? Well, a person who has fewer objects to concern themselves with other people stealing or taking can take their internal resources and invest them in the present moment. They can be present a little bit more than people who have more physically and, resource-wise, who are constantly worried and concerned about the condition of those things and what people think about those things and who's going to try to take those things. So that's a much longer and much more complicated conversation, but scientific study has shown us that individuals who have less actually have more quality of life. And people who have more actually have a less quality of life, that they're not happy. Unless they're doing something with what they have. If they're doing something with what they have, if they're doing something supporting their community, supporting their society, supporting happiness and their own personal authenticity and agency, then their answers are a little bit different. Because they're not hoarding. They're not hoarding. They're not just collecting. They're reinvesting. And that reinvestment brings them into the present moment. How can I support? What can I do? Where can I bring this resource so that it's used wisely? So all these things do come back to kind of the mental mindset, but they also come back to action. And action is about present moment, mostly. As long as we're not acting because of past stimulus, like we see in PTSD. I experienced PTSD for many, many years of my life. And when it happened, it took me completely out of the present moment and brought me into a past event that was no longer happening. And it took me a long time and a lot of mental and emotional re-education in order to change that tendency so that I could be present in the now, building a life in the now, living a life in the now that was conducive to my heart's calling, rather than continuing to invest in a past that was no longer happening. When we invest in the past, we bankrupt ourselves from the future and from the present. Because another scientific study shows us that when you invest heavily in the past through judgment, regret, resentment, trauma, what you're doing is depleting. You're depleting yourself physically. You're depleting your physical energy. You're depleting your nervous system. You're depleting your happy hormones. Couldn't think of the word. Lime, yay. Yeah, all right, yeah. They call it word salad, Yeah. How many of you have or have had Lyme disease? Really? I'm in a room with... I'm shocked. Usually half the hands go up. Well, Lyme has this interesting effect on the neurological system. If you have, and I have it chronically, I'll always have it, that it does something every once in a while to your ability to say what it is that you're thinking. So the typical kind of example is the word convertible, like a car, won't come out of your mouth, so you have to say a description, like, the car where the top goes down. So, happy hormones, because right now the other one is just not coming to me. So I digress. So coming back to this, so too much investment in the past in an unhealthy way depletes all of these things in our body and reduces inspiration. And inspiration is necessary for us to see the present moment in a light that is something other than harmful, violent, scary, fearful. Inspiration and, a healthy balance of hormones in the body are necessary for us to see the present moment as potential, as having beauty. Interestingly, there's a few world leaders, activists that we have experienced or who have been before our time who have said to us very clearly about how to be present. The Dalai Lama, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa. Each and every one of them gave us the key for presence, for now, and that's service. Call yourself to service. See the beauty in the world, but understand that there's also not so beautiful in the world. But don't see only the not so beautiful, otherwise you steal your own heart from yourself. Don't see only the beautiful, otherwise you steal your heart from yourself. You need to see the reality that there are two sides to every coin and there are two sides to every situation. There is beauty absolutely in every moment, and there is also pain and suffering. And the more that we can bring ourselves present to this, the more we are inspiring our mind to recognize the work that we can do individually or that we can come together communally to commit to in the present moment so that we can manifest a world that is less harmful, less violent, and more filled with vision. More filled with vision. What in yoga we call darshan. Not my darshan or your darshan, but the ultimate vision of a world based in unity. The Baha'i tradition, which is part of the Islamic tradition, kind of an offshoot, I guess, of it, they have this beautiful scripture called the Certitudes, and many of you have heard me talk about them before. They have this idea that, or this theory, this understanding, that there are all these world religions. And every one, no matter which one, is only part of the greater truth. None of them are a complete truth. And the reason why they're only part of the greater truth is because each one is addressing certain temperaments of people. None of them are addressing all people. Out of all of them, the Hinduism, which is actually called Sanatana Dharma, may come closest because they don't shut anyone out. They say, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim. Let's just sit down with it. Let's just include it all. They definitely have their own structure, but they don't shun anyone. So they may be very close to integrating everyone. There are fundamentalists everywhere, though, including in Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism. Sanatana Dharma is the eternal truth. Hinduism is the human expression of that. So with the human expression, there is always a sense of either fundamentalism or laziness. There's either an intense application or not. But this Baha'i tradition is so wonderful because they say out of all these religions, not one tells you the entire truth. Because in part, you're a human, I'm a human, and it's hard for us to hear the entire truth. And we have these temperaments, so we'll only be able to accept a certain amount of truth at any given moment. And the other part of that is because the people who are preaching religion are humans, and they're not perfect. So they're going to preach what they're comfortable with. I sit here and tell you what I'm comfortable with. I don't sit here and tell you this is the be-all, end-all, and please don't ever take it as that. You have to do your own questioning. You have to ask yourself questions, bring yourself into your own dynamic of Q&A. You should never accept anything that someone says as the ultimate truth. It's always only part of a larger truth. The Baha'i also say all these names for God, all these names that we use, None of them are actual. God doesn't really have a name. We gave God a name. Now, some traditions say, well, God does have a name. God's name is Om. God's name is Jehovah. God's name is, Jesus Christ. God's name is this. God's name is that. Again, every single tradition is only part of a greater truth. And the greater truth is that all names are the name. All names. So that you can call them, whatever you want. Whatever settles in your own heart. And it's okay. It's correct. It's not wrong. What is more important is not the name, but the quality of the connection. If we get caught up in just the name, I'm right, you're wrong, then we're setting ourselves up for violence in this life. Absolutely. But if we don't get caught up in the name and we just use all names, isn't that wonderful? Just think, if everybody came together with such courage and said, we're going to sit together and just start calling names. Just every possible name. And not say, I'm not sure if I like what you called that. But what about what my scripture says? It says this is the only name. Without getting caught up in those kinds of conversations, just sit and hear the multitude of ways that people call on that. And allow your heart to be softened by that. Because the ultimate reality is that we're just calling on that which the heart longs for. We're just seeking a deeper connection. In the yoga tradition, it is said that the ultimate name is Om. But Om is not really a name. It's a sound vibration. It's a sound vibration that includes all other sound vibrations. Can you allow your heart to open enough to include all other names, all other possibilities, all levels of love, all levels of compassion, so that you are in and of yourself and I am in and of myself more fully integrated, more fully inspired, and more fully present to what is. Fear takes us away when we say, well, my way is the way, your way is not the way, because my way is the way. If your way is the way, then my way can't be the way, so my way is the way. When we say that, now we're concerning ourselves with something other than the present moment. We're concerning ourselves with how am I going to prove I'm right? And proof is a future goal. It is not in a present moment. It sets you off on a path of proof, collecting proof, proving other people wrong. It sets you out on a path of harm and violence. And where love is involved, you don't need that. You don't need to prove love right. You don't need to. You don't need to prove compassion. You don't need to prove unity. It's already there. It is in and of itself the foundation. You don't have to prove the foundation. You just have to stand on it. And standing is now. Proof is later. Standing is now. Does that make sense? Yeah. The other thing that the Baha'i say, which is really beautiful, is that they say there are, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, there are how many billions of people in this world? 8 billion humans. Not one is the entire truth. It's only when you bring all those people together in the light of love and in the light of unity that we come into our fullness, our completeness, the completeness of our humanity. Humanity is not one person. Humanity is unity. It's all people. And that's why it's so important for us to move beyond these perceptions of it's you against me. It's not you against me. It's never them against us. It's not. It's all of us facing this challenge. You know, if you look at politics as us against them, then we're not looking at the chasm that caused the ignorance of that divide. Wow, that's a big thought, right? If we look at politics as merely us against them, then we're not looking at the issue. And the issue is what causes the chasm, what causes that deep, deep divide between. Because we're looking and they're looking and we're seeing an impasse. And we're blaming the other for the impasse. But the reality is that the impasse has been there all along and no one's addressing the gorilla in the room. So let's call on the gorilla in the room, shall we? And say, what are we going to do about poverty? What are we going to do about access to medical care? What are we going to do about, the health and wellness of our children and our seniors? What are we going to do about the mental health of our veterans? What are we going to do? Get out of the BS of blame and start acting. Acting. The way we act is what will bring forth a result, which is not guaranteed. But apathy and more apathy has more of a tendency to bring forward a certain quality of result, whereas compassion and action and walking and being the walk has more tendency to bring about an alternate quality in the result. But the result isn't guaranteed. Coming back to this idea of questions. Wheeler said, the universe responds to us. And the universe likes specific questions. I had a client once whose daughter was in college dating this guy, and the mom didn't like this guy, and it was causing a lot of friction between the daughter and the mom. And so she would drive up to college, pick the daughter up, and they would just argue the whole way home about pretty much everything, but a lot about this guy, And so in driving up there, she came to talk to me. She goes, I'm trying all of this positive thinking, withSudha, and I'm saying to myself, I'm not going to argue. 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 Not going to argue. And I started giggling, and she goes, I know, right? It doesn't work. And I said, no, it works. It's working perfectly for you. What are you saying to yourself? And she goes, well, I'm saying I'm not going to argue. And I said, so the universe really likes specifics. And the universe doesn't hear negatives. So in effect, if the universe doesn't hear negatives and the universe really likes specifics, then you can take that not out, and what you're saying is argue, 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 argue. And you are creating your own reality there. Instead, try this. Silence. Silence. Be silent. Be silent. Be silent. She looked at me with a little bit of disbelief, maybe, but she was curious. So she was like, I'll try it. She came back and said, oh my gosh, the difference was amazing. Silence. Be. Just be. And be silent. It brought her into the present moment. And because she wasn't ready for a war, argue, 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 argue. The daughter wasn't reacting that way. And the weekend that they had was much calmer and kinder and nicer. Inquire, if your life is not what you want it to be in this moment, what is it that you're asking for? I just want to be happy. What does that mean? Yeah, what's that mean? Be more specific. In this moment, I wish to be relaxed. Okay, then you can relax. That will contribute to your happiness. In this moment, I wish to be calm. Great, then be calm. That will contribute to your happiness. In this moment, I wish to be compassionate. Great, then be compassionate. That will contribute to your happiness too. In this moment, I wish to be rich. That's a goal, and it's way over there. And there's a lot of ways that can go. You know, if you're talking about material wealth, then you may or may not have your work set out for you. The question is not how do you get that goal. The question is how do you walk the walk, thinking that that goal may be there, accepting that it also may not, and understanding that there's a lot of ways to define wealth. There's a lot of ways to define rich, you know. There's a lot of ways. And as you're walking, asking yourself, what kind of wealth am I talking about here? If there's a lot of frustration because I'm not getting there fast enough, wherever there is, then maybe I need to rein it back in and start counting my blessings that I currently have, start looking at life differently. Because if I just look at myself like, wow, I'm lacking this, I'm lacking that, I'm lacking money, I'm lacking objects, then maybe you're not inviting things to you like appreciation, like gratitude. I don't particularly care for those kind of like get rich quick things that say, think about being rich and you'll be rich. I think that's a little silly. That's just my take on it. No offense to anybody. But I do think it's a little silly because what they're giving you is only part of a scenario. They're not laying the foundation for what you already have. You know, those kind of mindsets aren't suggesting to you that there's actually a process to follow to rediscover the existing abundance. And they're not always supporting, maybe some do, but they're not always supporting how to see wealth, how to see these things, so that you understand that, you know what, if you do become rich overnight, that's a responsibility. That's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to carry a resource through this world in a way that manifests the world that you wish to live in. That's a responsibility. It's a responsibility of the walk. How do you walk? More and more people who win the lottery say they're not happier. They're actually less happy. Yeah, maybe they could pay their bills and they never have to worry about it again, but now they don't know who their friends are. Now they don't know what to do. They're bored. There's some young person somewhere out in the Midwest, if I'm remembering correctly, she's suing somebody for the psychological damage that she experienced after she won the lottery. She's like suing like the lottery. Yeah. I don't remember all the details to that, but I know I came across it briefly like 6 months ago. And I kept meaning to go back to it to kind of see where her psychology was at with that. But the idea was that I think she might have been like just 18 years old, no guidance, no nothing. And her whole life changed as a result of this. And now she's so, if I'm remembering correctly, feeling so closed off, so isolated. And she says, the lottery is not a gift. It's not a gift. So again, it comes to the walk, right? It comes to the walk. There's another quote in here that I want to share with you. And for those who just came in shortly ago, The Quantum Revelation by Paul Levi, or Levy, I'm not sure how he says it. But this other quote, I just want to get the name of the person who said it. He said, just a moment while I find it. The poet Antonio Machado said, traveler, There is no path. Paths are made by walking. There is no path. Paths are made by walking. So whatever opens up to you will come about because you're walking in that direction. Because of the way you're walking. Because of how present or absent you are in your walk. And if you're present to the walk, then you have more and more an understanding of what may or may not come next. And some things you can negotiate. For example, if you're walking and there's a big mud puddle, you can go around it. Or you can jump in it. If you know it's there. But if you're ignorant about where you're putting your foot, then you're going to be irritated when your shoes get wet or your feet get wet. Yeah. So being present in the walk and how we're walking is so important. And in that presence, we get to ask questions. We get to ask questions that you've all heard me bring up before. How am I being harmful? How am I not being harmful? How am I being compassionate? How am I practicing empathy? How am I giving away my power to apathy? How am I minding my own business? How am I not minding my own business? How am I leading? How am I following? How am I allowing inspiration? How am I negating inspiration? All these questions are questions every one of us need to be asking, because they're questions that open us up to the walk. And the more we open up to the moment, this present walk, the less concerned we are about the goal, even if we've set one for ourselves. Because we come to understand that the quality of the goal is largely dependent upon the quality of the walk. Some people get bored with life and they say, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want a car. I want a car, I want a car. I'm going to save up my money for a car. I'm going to save up my money for a nice red sports car. Yay. And so they save, and they're cursing the whole process of saving for the nice red sports car, because now they can't go to the bar with their friends, can't go out for a nice dinner, can't go get the Broadway show tickets, can't go buy those $500 tickets for the concert they want to go to. But it's okay, because I'm going to get this car, and when I get this car, I'll finally be happy. Darn those other things. And right, everybody has gone through something like that, where you've focused so much on getting that you said no to all these other things. And then you get that. The day finally comes, you've got the money for the down payment, you're like, yay, I'm finally going to be happy. I just see myself sitting in that car, putting the top down, that car where the top goes down, pulling out of the parking lot, radio blasting. Everybody's going to think I'm so special. I'm going to think I'm so special. What happens? You're not special. That car is nothing. Just wait till your first payment comes in. Or maybe your first fender bender, right? Because now you got the car, and yeah, maybe you are thrilled with the car. Maybe you do just love the idea of the car, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But now you're parking all the way in the back of the parking lot, where nobody else parks, because you do not want someone touching your car. I kid you not. When I first got the truck, I did that, like a couple of times, and I walked out of Target. And I'm like in the nosebleed section, which is great for exercise. But then I walk back there, and what do I see? All these other parking spots are empty, except for the one next to mine. And it's not a new car, you know. It's a dented, like, 1970 whatever. Probably belongs to some young kid who is into drag racing and. Yeah. And I just looked and laughed. I said, oh my God, Sudha, that is so futile. You know that, right? That's like a magnet. That's like a magnet. That's the universe not recognizing your wishes because you used a negative, right? No cars around me, no cars around me. So instead, I park right in the middle of the parking lot, and then no one parks next to me. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a silly example, but it's also a potent example, because it's what we make of it. It's what we make of it. And then if something does happen, and so something happens, it's why you have insurance. But if we're only ever looking at, getting something in order to be happy, then we're not going to be in this present moment walking the walk. We'll just be talking some talk and getting frustrated because we're not realizing it now. So what are your thoughts? Thoughts, reflections, questions? This moment, this present moment, is about who you are right now. It's not about who you could possibly become later. It's about the effort that you're putting into the moment now. It's about the way you see the world now. It's about how you allow your fear to take charge now, or you allow your love to take charge now. It's about having eyes that are willing to see the beauty and not just the disaster. That's willing to recognize the potential and not just the lack. It's about having a heart that you allow to open to receiving and giving love versus having a heart that you shut down to that. Because, maybe their love won't be good enough. Maybe you misunderstand love and think that your love requires that you throw your arms around everybody and be like, oh, I love you, man. It doesn't. Your love only necessitates that you love. That's all it asks you to do. And that can be done from a distance. That can be done close up. It can be done from around the world. It doesn't necessitate a physical relationship. Love is not physical. Love is esoteric. Love exists in the ethers, where your breath goes, and the thing that you can't see. So love doesn't mean that you have to be face to face with the person. Love is heart to heart. And when we come into a deeper state of love, because we're more present in this moment, then we're also less judgmental. We don't hate people. We don't look at how we can get around them. We don't look at how we can get through them. We don't see them as being an inconvenience. We don't see them as less or more than we are. We just recognize everybody's got their work to do, so I'm just going to get out of your way and let you do your work. I'm going to mind my own business, and let you do what you got to do because I got stuff I got to do too. And sometimes the hardest part of love is knowing when to release, when to let go. And that's not something that is an easy path for anyone, but it's a path that you have to look at because many of our relationships are completely unhealthy. And we say, no, but I love them. And if I'm not present for them, then that's going to be hurtful. And then that's not love. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Sometimes the practice of what we call love is holding someone hostage, And the greatest thing that you can do out of love is not hold them hostage. Just let them be. Love them anyway, no matter what your tendency is. Not because of their tendency. They're who they are. It doesn't matter. That's their path. It matters, but not the way that the ego thinks it matters. The ego thinks it matters because it satisfies or dissatisfies you as a person. No, it has nothing to do with my satisfaction or dissatisfaction or yours. It has to do with what that other person needs. And then it also has to do with what you need. Boundaries are a very present moment. Very present moment. And to hold into healthy boundaries means that we need to understand the quality of our relationships and what we're walking in those relationships. And then to bring ourselves more present to the harm that we commit or the healing that we allow. And sometimes it doesn't look like healing right away. Sometimes it's rather painful, but it's still necessary. It's still necessary. Patanjali said, he was talking about thought patterns, but it's actions too, that there are really only two kinds. The kind that impose pain and the kind that don't. There's actions that impose pain and there's actions that don't. Sometimes the actions that are painful at first lead to the place where there is no pain. And sometimes the actions that begin without pain actually end up in a place of pain. We don't know that. So all we can do is be present now and hold in as closely as we can to what it is that we have faith in, to the essence and quality of love, the essence and quality of presence, committing ourselves to self-study, to asking ourselves what comes next, what is right now, how do I become a better person, how do I hold a more meaningful space, how do I allow myself to embody more and more love, more and more grace, more and more compassion. And keep asking those questions, because the questions bring us back to what am I doing right now? What am I doing right now? Is what I'm doing right now embracing really the qualities that I wish my life to express? And if what you're doing now, if you're sitting there cursing out the person who got your order wrong, and you ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now supporting the manifestation of more peace and love in the world? Well, the answer is kind of obvious. No. So then stop cursing at them. Call yourself to your responsibility. Become silent. Accept what is. And through your example, maybe she'll stop cursing or he'll stop cursing back at you. And now you've made a resolution. You've made a resolve. And then what comes next? My food is still incorrect. Well, is it? Sometimes you have to look at that, right? Sometimes when the thing looks incorrect, it's actually not in the bigger picture because it's there. Yeah. But what if you're a vegetarian and they put chicken on your salad? I mean, those are fighting words. It's like, no, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to ask kindly. That's happened to me at Panera, right? I go in and I get the Fuji apple salad, no chicken. Somehow they heard double chicken.
That's that thing.
Right? No chicken.
Yeah.
They heard double chicken. So you can't get mad, at them. And you also don't want to waste, right? Because, look, I'm a vegetarian and I don't eat chicken. But I know people who do. So what I will say to them is, I won't eat this because I don't eat chicken. If you could make the order that I requested, I will also take this one and give it to someone who I know will eat it. Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? Or you could even go a step further and say, I haven't touched this. I would like to donate it to one of your employees. Let them enjoy it for lunch. So there's always a way to bring it to kindness. And maybe that's what the opportunity is. So what's in front of you is not a mistake. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to walk. It's an opportunity to carve out your own path, to create the path that you're walking. Isn't that beautiful? And that's in this moment. That's in this moment. Any questions or reflections for today? Dr. Jeff?
And that type of action is so powerful because people, I've experienced sensing someone's energy just shift I don't think of something like that, my head is running. But that is a great example of everything we talked about this morning. How to just be the essence at the moment. And it opens unknowing. You know, like, donate it to our employee or
Yeah.
inspiring to me.
Dr. Jeff is going to be doing a couple of programs today. So if you're interested in the nonviolent communication, which is just such a powerful practice, Jeff will be providing an introduction to that today. What time is that at?
12:30.
12:30. And then what are you doing after that?
Following that, 12:30 to 1:30. So 1:30 to 2:30-ish, 2:45 is a way to put your hands on your body and sense areas of peace or non-peace and breathe to connect to different rhythms of our breath and energy that are existing, that when we tap into them can guide us through a model by a doctor named Epstein of 12 stages of healing that take us from suffering. No matter what I do, this is hard to be with, or this doesn't change, through 12 stages that end with community.
Yeah, so that's great. So if you're staying for a while today, maybe consider going into those sessions. There are so many sessions today. Any other thoughts or questions? Yes, Jeff.
I found out it takes more energy to stay in anger, resentment, and fear than
Yeah.
it does to be free of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how much wasted energy, being destructive where I can be destructive.
Yeah.
And being the example is being in the human service profession years ago was like, learning to reflect where a person's at, because sometimes I found what they're saying verbally does not match what they're doing physically. And, instead of listening to verbal, there's more actually going physical and spiritual than what they're actually doing, saying.
Yeah. And I agree, but I also feel that it's important for us to not make assumptions about people.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. We just don't know. We don't know what injuries they have in their body. We don't know what illness or trauma or thought they're having, We just don't know. Like, people make an assumption. It's really kind of interesting. People make the assumption that I'm always calm. And I do not play into that because I'm not always calm. I do fairly consistently as I can muster, try to bring myself into a state of calmness. But yeah, just because I wear white doesn't mean I'm perfect in any way, shape, or form. And just because I practice yoga doesn't mean that I'm always connected. Connection is a process. It's a path that you're creating for yourself, And definitely there's lots of puddles, that you're maneuvering and negotiating and trying to express your most authentic self through. Similarly, we see somebody who's angry and we don't know what that means. There's a great example of that. There was this woman who is a yoga teacher, international, I don't remember what her name is, but she's very public about this situation, where this guy, she was having a conversation on Facebook, and this guy comes on and starts calling her names, like really lambasting her. Rather than lash out at him in front of the Facebook community, which you all know that's a war, right? So instead, she private messages him, and she goes, look, I don't know anything about you, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, what's going on right now? Why would you even say something like that to someone you don't know? Is there something I can support you with? What's happening? He turns around and tells her, like, he's a veteran and he can't get support for whatever he has going on. She comes back out onto Facebook and she puts a call out And she says, look, people in the Houston area, I need someone who is a psychotherapist. I need someone who does this, who does that. Please, people, step forward now because we really need you to donate some time to the well-being of someone I've met. She connects him with a few therapists, and he gets the service that he needs. Why? Because she didn't react to his anger. Because she didn't take it as a threat to her or an insult to her. She saw it as a call to suffering, and she responded. And it's just such a beautiful, empowering story because a healing happened as a result of it. You know, that's the potential. When people, look, healthy people don't hurt people. They don't. Healthy people do not hurt people. Healthy people do not purposefully harm people. That harm is an indication, that hurt when they lash out is an indication that they're sick and suffering and that they're not receiving the medicine they need. And I don't mean pills. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. But you're right. We look at people and we recognize you're human, period. Period. Not going to put anybody on a pedestal. Can we be inspired by people? Yes, absolutely. But should we allow that inspiration to put them on a throne? No. Nope. Not even if you're talking about the Dalai Lama. No. Gandhi? No. Because they're human. So they're still going to feel and react. Maybe less than the rest of us. But it's still their potential. I was so surprised recently. I heard our beloved Amma. Amma is a modern day living saint, a woman who's called the hugging saint. And you know, you get a picture of somebody. I've never met her. I've never been in her presence. Somebody shared with me recently that she had a complete breakdown, temper tantrum with someone who kicked them off the stage because they weren't playing kirtan right. Yeah. And I looked at him and I went, what? You know? And then I thought to myself, of course. She has her boundaries. She has her standard. She is living her authenticity, carving out her path as she walks it. And yeah. So what? So what if she did that? She's a human. It doesn't make her any less or more. It just makes her human. And it's beautiful because it gives the rest of us inspiration.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? It gives the rest of us inspiration. So good for her. Good for her. Oh, all right, I think the door opening told me I had to end now. So let's sit nice and tall and close the eyes. Because you know we could talk for a while, right? You know. Take a nice breath in, a nice breath out. Remember, one foot after the other, in front of the other, or after. Walk the walk. Don't talk the talk. Carve out the path by walking and being in the moment. Ask pertinent questions and accept the answers, whatever they may be. Placing the right hand on the heart, left hand over the right, and together we'll lift our voices in one Om. Take a nice breath in. And bowing the head to the heart, acknowledging all that is. And drawing the face to center. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being here today. So good to gather with you. Please enjoy the day. There's so much happening. There's family yoga, kids yoga. There's all kinds of healing modalities happening. There's all kinds of healing bowls and soul searching and nonviolent communication.
Anyone who's coming for a wheel class?
Oh, wheel class is happening now.
Straight down the hall.
Yeah, so enjoy the day, everybody. Enjoy the day. Thank you so much. Namaste.